Why a spoon, cousin? Why not an axe?
Because it's dull, you twit. It'll hurt more.
Do you know how to use that thing?
Yes. The pointy end goes into the other man.
This is going to take a lot of work.
Yipee-Ki-Yay, Mr. Falcon.
I uncovered a gem from the 90s recently.
Oh, really?
At random. Do you remember The Shadow with Alec Baldwin?
Alec Baldwin?
Yeah.
I remember that.
The old, based on the old radio series.
The Shadow knows.
Evil lurks in the hearts of men. I tried to find scripts for that one time. I thought it would be easy to find the old radio play scripts. Not easy. Not easy at all. Actually really, really freaking hard. I was surprised.
Did you find it?
No, I found like one, but it was incomplete, and it had like it was more of a transcript because it had even the ads, like the ad copy was in there. So I don't know.
Treat yourself to a nice tall glass of rich chocolatey Ovaltine.
I think it was Colgate. I think it was brought to you by Colgate. Something like that. But anyway, the Alec Baldwin movie, I remember seeing it when I was a kid. I guess more around when it came out, and I fucking hated it. And I think I just hated it because it wasn't Batman back then. Because this was like 95, I think.
Your big gripe is, why aren't you Batman?
Yeah, and it is pretty slow, and it's pretty weird to a kid in the 90s. Rewatching it now, like, it really is a cool film, and it looks wonderful. Like, it has this comic book noir kind of feel to it. It's New York. It's like Art Deco New York, and it takes place in the 30s. So it has this feeling like, you know, it's sort of in that Indiana Jones, you know, Alan Quartermain kind of 1930s, but sort of a swashbuckler kind of vibe, you know, and there's like mysteries of the Orient and Asian magicians, and it's kind of neat. It's just neat. It's a pastiche of all the kind of shit that was popular at that time.
I saw it, and I don't remember that much about it.
I didn't remember anything. I remembered bits and pieces once I saw it again, but I didn't remember anything. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So that was a nice surprise.
I remember liking it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I hear you've been catching up on some, speaking of movies from the 90s, I hear you've been catching up on some backstory for some of our favorite comedies that you... What was it you told me? You told me you saw Young Frankenstein way before you ever saw Son of Frankenstein.
Oh, yes.
That
I saw
trips me
Young
out.
Frankenstein, and I thought, like, I saw Frankenstein. You know, I guess I'll appreciate this. And I watched it, and it's a funny movie, but, you know, I'm watching it thinking these things that I have no context for are just, like, objectively silly. Then I saw Son of Frankenstein, not realizing that that's the movie that it sent up. Because I'd seen Bride of Frankenstein, too. I thought that was plenty of Frankenstein to
Yeah,
be able to get
most of
what's
the
going
things that movie spoofs are from that one sequel, Son of Frankenstein, for whatever reason. It does have some of the funniest shit.
I watched Son of Frankenstein, and I was like, oh, my God, it makes so much sense now. Like, that dude with, like, the fucking clockwork arm.
Yeah.
I just remember watching that in Young Frankenstein thinking, like, you know, like, okay, that's pretty silly. You know, I guess that's funny. And then I saw Son of Frankenstein. I was like, I get it. I get it now.
You know, I was back, like, I saw it in the correct order, I guess, if you want to call it that. But I always thought it was so weird that someone made a spoof movie about what I assumed was an obscure sequel to an old
like
horror
the
movie.
Third
like
one they made.
The third. It's after Bride, and you know it still had Karloff in it, which is cool. You know, it's part of that. There's 4 movies with Karloff playing Frankenstein, and this is the one with Basil Rathbone as the titular son, and it's got some weird elements for sure. And they made fun of all of them.
Yeah.
Wow, that's funny. That movie must have read really strange to you. That's like, and now more recently, you told me you did this again, right? Because
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Go ahead, tell us what.
I made the rounds of all these Mel Brooks movies, and I'd seen them, and I thought they were all funny. And one of the ones that I loved when I was younger was Robin Hood Men in Tights.
As most
you
of
know?
us did, yeah.
Yeah, because it was hilarious, you know. But I can't wait to watch that movie again because I just for the first time saw the Adventures of Robin Hood, like the Errol Flynn one. And then upon seeing that for the first time, it's like that experience all over again. I'm like, oh, that's why they did that. You know,
That's great. That's
right
great.
on down to the fact that they're all just like, oh, don't they constantly laugh at each other?
Yeah, they're always laughing, you know, and that's where Carrie Elwes gets the like thing where he smiles while he sword fights the whole time. You know, with that big shit-eating grin. Like that's totally Errol Flynn to a T. And he always did that. But all that was also a Douglas Fairbanks thing from the old silent days. You know, he was always smiling and grinning. He played pirates and he played Robin Hood. He was the first to play Robin Hood in the old silent, which was, I think, called The Adventures of Robin Hood also.
Yeah. It's just, it was funny just and just the look of that movie, the way they built the sets, the costumes, like the ridiculous green costume. Like I kind of didn't realize how on the nose a lot of it was until I watched, you know, the original Errol Flynn. And like again, I'm just like I got it. And the whole time I'm just thinking of the spoof and all the stuff that went over my head when I saw it the first time.
Well, that movie, it's important to note, I guess, that it came out in 1938. Like it's in color,
Right.
but it was done in color. It's one of the early color movies. Like it's got that Technicolor look. So yeah, all the tights
It's
and everything's
bright.
very vibrant. But that is still in the era when movies were closer to stage productions than films. You know, like they were still a lot of conventions from theater was still in the movies, including costuming like that, and no desire to really make it look like these guys sleep in the woods every night. You know, like and where these colors came from, and just, you know, the jauntiness of it all and how they get their hair perfect and washed and
Right.
you know, it's a fantasy almost, but it's, you know, it's very stage like, it's very theatrical. Everything is, including the fights. But, you know, this was a big budget movie.
Oh yeah.
What'd you think of it? I mean, it's the first time seeing it. Like I know it is what it is, but
Well,
what'd you think of it?
I mean, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I'm seeing it way later, and I'm seeing it's fun. It's weird because I've been exposed to a ton of Robin Hood.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I kind of, you know, I mentioned to you that I hadn't seen that one yet, and you were like, "What?
Yeah.
What?" Like, it's just weird to have not seen the thing that kicked off all those other adaptations. But yeah, I mean, I liked it, and you could see a lot of it gives you an idea of what's changed over the years and what kind of stuff stayed the same. And yeah, it was. I thought it was pretty interesting. It was an interesting watch.
Well, when you were a kid, did you ever watch the Disney one with the Fox Robin Hood?
Oh, of course, yeah. And that's a good one.
It's
too.
really
I know
similar.
it's a cartoon.
Yeah,
It's great.
Well, this and the Adventures of Robin Hood, they follow the classic. I guess you would call it Robin Hood story beats, because the story of Robin Hood is very, very old, of course, right?
Right.
I mean, there's legends and stuff, like the written forms of the Adventures of Robin Hood and his merry men. It's an old story, you know, being told in an old movie here already, right? But just like the Three Musketeers and just like Dracula, you know, the stories, the adaptations that attempt to be faithful to the original stories, they have these certain beats that they follow. Like there's Robin Hood has to fight Little John with a quarterstaff on a bridge.
Right.
Like there's that beat. You know, you're gonna have to see the merry men robbing some people and robbing rich people, and then disseminating, and then the crashing at the dining hall and the archery competition, and you know, there's these beats that every Robin Hood story kind of has to have, and then there's wiggle room in between them. But even the cartoon had that, the Disney one, had most of those elements.
All that stuff is present.
Yeah, the splitting of the arrow, like the Robin Hood shot, that has to be done. You know, hopefully. We grew up with Robin Hood, but a different one. I mean,
Yeah, that's the one I was most familiar with.
yeah, the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner.
Yes, Kevin Costner, and like at the time, I didn't question it, but just
Right?
in the middle of Sherwood Forest, making no attempt to be British.
No, he
Like,
really
none
couldn't.
whatsoever.
I read that he couldn't, like he just couldn't do the accent, and I get it because I've never heard him do any accent. I think he did sort of a bit of a southern thing in JFK, but it wasn't that great either.
He
But
was back and to the left,
and to the left, back and to the left.
and to the left.
But yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't question that movie. I thought it was pretty awesome, to be honest. It wasn't until the internet told me that people hate that movie.
Right. Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought Alan Rickman was amazing.
Alan Rickman was wonderful in that.
So, but that movie compared to the older adaptations, and I mean, Robin Hood has been adapted a million times in so many different forms. There's a new one coming out. Yet another
new one.
another friggin' Robin Hood movie, and it's got starring apparently Hugh Jackman as Robin Hood. So it's going to be a aging and dying, I think, Robin Hood.
Oh man! So he's doing like
Logan.
Logan.
Yeah,
treatment?
he's doing Logan for Robin Hood. But this
They should
isn't
just
even
call it Robin.
this isn't even the first time they've done this. There was a movie, I think it was the 80s, with Sean Connery called Robin and Marion. And that's what it was
I've heard
about.
of
It was
this.
about an aged Robin Hood and Marion who had been married and were living like in hiding, I think. I saw part of it once. It's really hard to find now. It wasn't good, and it wasn't well received. The 80s was not a popular time for Robin Hood. If you look at when everything was made, when all the adaptations were made, it's like every at least 10 years there's a show and a movie of some kind until you get to the 70s, the mid 70s, and then it stops until the 90s. The 80s was not a great time for classic characters like that. So I
wonder what it is about that story that it keeps getting done to death. Like, why keep making that story?
Well, it might have something to do with like the same class war has been going on since the Middle Ages of
Yeah, that's true.
the rich against the poor. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of things in the Errol Flynn one that kind of still ring true, and that's kind of sad. And you see behavior that's eerily reminiscent of things we've seen recently, and but there's certain stories that I guess they bear retelling. I think this is also one of those things because it's very unique to Hollywood. Like I said, these early ones, they were content with it being like a sort of a stage play version of a story. But as time went on, everyone tried to make a more realistic and grittier version of this story. Like, did you see the one with Russell Crowe, the Ridley Scott one? I think it was just called Robin Hood.
I've seen like the last couple minutes of it, but more recently, I made the mistake of putting on the newer one.
Oh God, that fucking CGI schlock fest.
With,
Is that the one with
Taron Egerton?
Isn't
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx? Oh my God, that was so fucking bad. I watched 20 minutes of it and turned it off.
Did you get to the part when Robin Hood is fighting in the Crusades, or John Loxley is fighting in the Crusades, and they filmed it? They may as well have put like M4s in these guys' hands. They're moving through like the desert as part of like an infiltration unit.
What?
But they have longbows.
I remember that the bows were able to do some really magical fucking shit in that movie.
They have longbows, and they're stalking through this town wearing what look like medieval flak jackets, and then all of a sudden they just they started getting pelted with these rapid fire iron bolts from this dude in a crow's nest shooting at them with like a repeating
Crossbow?
fire crossbow.
Sure.
With like a
Like that thing
with,
Van
with
Helsing
like a
had.
rotating drum. And then they're like, okay, he's got us pinned down like he's a sniper. You know, he's got us pinned down. You do a flanking maneuver, and it looks like something out of fucking Call of Duty. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, if I had made it there, that definitely would have been the end for me.
I was howling. I was laughing so hard. It was so.
Well, I guess that's what you
weird.
get. The Ridley Scott one was like trying to be uber realistic. So then the next one had to be hyper realistic and just ridiculous shit. I guess I don't know. So I don't know what the tone.
Video game.
Yeah, that was. There have been a lot of misses, that's for sure. So it's like not even warranted to go through the whole list. But you know, damn, dude. I think the funny thing is that the villain changes so much in different adaptations, right?
Yeah.
Like there's 3 villains in Robin Hood. There's King John, Prince John,
Prince John,
whatever
yeah.
you want to call him. He calls himself King, but he's really Prince John. Then there's Sir Guy of Gisborne, and then there's the Sheriff of Nottingham, right?
Right.
Well, in the Errol Flynn one, I think it's primarily Prince John and Sir Guy, who's Basil Rathbone again.
Who's great in that movie.
He's pretty much great, and he was amazing in Son of Frankenstein. He had to deliver some ridiculous lines, and he did it with conviction. When he's starting to like lose his mind a little bit, but he's so British that he can't really let his countenance sway that much. It's like vibrating in him when he's like playing the darts all psycho and shit, you know, like that's ridiculous. No, he's wonderful, man. I'm going to talk about another movie I love him in a minute, but in this one, and they made the Sheriff of Nottingham kind of a bumbling jackass.
Yeah.
In that. And then in Prince of Thieves, the one we grew up with, there is no Prince John at all. The Sheriff of Nottingham is the one who is running everything and taking control while King Richard is fighting the Crusades. In that one, he's fighting the Crusades. Normally, he's imprisoned whilst fighting the Crusades, and that's why he isn't in England, but whatever.
Right.
And then Sir Guy is like his cousin, who's played by our guy from The Crow, Michael Wincott.
Michael Wincott.
Michael Wincott, yeah. And he kills him. He stabs him in the chest. It's not nice.
Isn't that precious?
A spoon is dull, you twit. It'll hurt more. Man, I tell you, though, you're right. That is a movie that I didn't question as a kid, and I watch it now. I watched it like a couple of years ago, and whew, boy, there is some weird fucking moments in that. Some of Kevin Costner's deliveries and dialogue, my God, man, like it's so melodramatic and so ridiculous. It might as well be the Errol Flynn movie, you know. But the weirder thing is how dark that movie starts. Right? Do you remember how it starts?
No, I don't. Is that the one that starts in the Middle East?
Almost. The very beginning, if I remember correctly, the very beginning is Sheriff of Nottingham and all his dudes in like their KKK hoods show up to Robin Hood's the Locksley Castle or whatever, Robin Hood's home, while he's away fighting in the Crusades. And they lure the father out and kill him. Remember, they all have torches. They're on horses, and they're like, Alan Rickman's all like, "Join us or die," but he said it real slow because he's Alan Rickman.
Join us or die.
Or die. So you get that followed right by the horrific dungeon scene in Baghdad or wherever the fuck they are, Jerusalem, right. I guess. They're in Jerusalem, I guess. Yeah, sure. That really fucked me up as a kid. I mean, we were little when what year did this come out? It came out in 91. So I probably saw it when I was 9 or 10, because it's Robin Hood, right? And my dad loved Kevin Costner when I was a kid, Dances with Wolves and shit. That scene, especially like with the cutting the hand off with the hot saber, like that's some hardcore
Yeah,
shit to lay
not
on you
good.
right away. And then the tone just gets lighter and lighter as the movie goes on
Right.
until everyone gets slaughtered in the forest during that one attack. And all of a sudden, the guys from Braveheart are charging into the woods, killing everyone. They did a lot of weird things with the story, but I think the most interesting thing is that they deleted the whole archery competition ruse. Like that's always the classic way they try to draw Robin Hood out, right? They try to catch him, they
Yeah.
offer bounties, nothing's working, but they're like his hubris,
They play on his pride.
will not allow him to miss an archery competition, bringing the best archers from all over the kingdom, right? And as always, Robin Hood shows up in costume, beats everyone, and thereby reveals that he is Robin Hood and he is taken prisoner. However, they kept that part. Robin Hood still does get taken prisoner and he has to be saved. It's just, I don't know why they got rid of it. Why do you think they didn't have it?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they couldn't get it to look good.
Is it too slow? Is it like too...
Maybe it just didn't. It didn't flow right. It could have been anything.
I guess it's like a weird beat for a modern movie. Let's just pause all
A
this
modern
dark...
movie set in the 13th century.
But let's pause all this very, very serious action in Sherwood Forest for a jaunty bit of costume play and archery. But they did...
Hey man, they did it in the Adventures of Robin Hood. Dude, Errol Flynn. I was not prepared for how many dudes Errol Flynn was going to mow down.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the bow. He stacks
Oh,
up
yeah.
a ridiculous body count. It's crazy.
With the sword, too. I gotta say, man, even as old as that movie is, when he fucking strolls into the banquet hall with the deer over his shoulders,
Yeah,
that's pretty
awesome.
fucking baller shit right there. And I think that was a real deer. I mean, this was 1938. I don't think they gave a
looked like
shit.
it.
I think that was a real deer.
And what I want to know is like, it became. I was laughing by the end of it just because it became like you knew it was coming. There was just a soldier on screen being a dick to someone, looking off to the side, and his chest is just square in the middle of
Oh,
the screen.
yeah.
You just see
You're
this
just-
arrow come off screen and doof,
I know the
bury
moment you're
itself in
talking
his
about,
heart.
too. That was great. Yeah, they're
He
like
does it,
torturing
12
somebody.
times.
Yeah.
They're like, give us your money, and then all of a sudden an arrow comes sailing in.
Yeah, they were not shy about whacking motherfuckers in this. It was it's fun. There's a lot of action. It keeps moving. It's surprising back in the, like, not disparaging it or anything, but movies in that era often had a very slow love story built into them, where you would get these long conversations and you throw a rock and you'll hit a movie from that era, and this one doesn't really have that. It has a love story, but
but it doesn't move all that slowly.
yeah, it does keep a good pace especially for a film this old, I think. No, I like it. I've been watching this movie since I was a little kid. I don't know why my dad taped all these old movies and made me watch them, but this is what I liked when I was little.
Well, maybe because he knew they were great.
Maybe. It was cool to have this right alongside Prince of Thieves. But another movie that came out right around the time of the Errol Flynn Robin Hood was one of the first adaptations of Zorro, the Zorro story. And that also had Basil Rathbone in it. And the guy who played Friar Tuck, he's also in Zorro.
Playing the same role.
Basically, yeah. He's the friar.
Friar
Felipe. So you told me you had never seen that old one. You've seen the Antonio Banderas Zorro that came out when we were kids, right?
Yeah, man. Was there a Zorro show?
Yeah, in the 90s there was. Yeah, there absolutely was.
I had first seen the show.
Okay.
When I say seen it, I mean I didn't watch it. I was just aware of it. I knew that there was a guy that would carve a little Z I just wanted to carve a little Z.
I just want to cut a little Z in your forehead.
Yeah, I knew there was a guy that would slash a Z in people's clothes, and he wore a mask, and that was Zorro. And then the Antonio Banderas one comes out, with a gorgeously tanned Anthony Hopkins in it.
Yeah, right. They glowed
Pretending
him
to be
up.
Spanish, and that was it. I thought this is cheesy.
It was
I didn't think
cheesy.
there was much there to. To explore. I saw the movie. I was like, Catherine Zeta-Jones was like, young and blowing up at the time.
Yeah. You can't blame him. It was 1998. Banderas was at the height of his powers. They had to make a Zorro movie with him, but
right.
What they ended up coming out with was so dated and so 90s that it was just goofy, man. And it had that light comedic tone to it that I don't know why they had to do it that way. Like, I think because it was Disney of the 90s, and they didn't have, like, Zorro didn't kill dudes in that really, like, a lot. And if he did, it was like largely bloodless or in direct response to evil dudes being evil.
Or like if he's about to be killed,
Yeah. Like, it was all very mundane. It was tame. It was a tame Zorro. And I remember being disappointed in it even as a kid because I grew up watching The Mark of Zorro with Tyrone Power and Basil Rathbone. What a fucking bill, dude. Those two names, man. What the fuck? Hollywood.
Well,
fucking baller, dude.
You suggested I watch it, and like I have this idea of the TV show in my head, and I saw 2 Antonio Banderas Zorro movies.
The second one was so bad.
I'm like, okay, sure, I'll check out Zorro. I watched it was great. I loved it.
That's great. That's awesome.
I thought it was awesome. Now it's a little goofy because it was made in 1940, I think.
Yeah, it was 2 years 2 years after Robin Hood. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's some goofy stuff, that's just, but all the stuff that I found goofy about it was just like of the time. It wasn't anything to do with the story. It's just how they made movies back then. You know?
With bad accents and people playing not the race that they are, and I mean, Tyrone Power, I think he played Italians, he played Spaniards, he played Mexicans. The dude was Irish. You know that Tyrone, and that name,
not know he was Irish.
And it's not Tyrone Powers, it's Tyrone Power.
Yeah,
it takes some
name.
fucking balls to make that your stage name. You know what I mean? As an Irish, thin white Irishman with a pencil thin mustache.
Yeah, the mustache was pretty goofy.
So how about that fucking sword fight, man?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm watching that and I'm thinking like, this looks really good. And I remember watching Adventures of Robin Hood, and those guys, they're all doing it, but you could tell where they sped up the film.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're trying not to chop each other's heads off while filming it, but they need it to speed up. You speed up the film. And I'm watching the Zorro fight, and like, man, I struggle to find parts where they sped it up, and I was shocked to think that the actors are doing that. And I messaged you about it. And I was like, dude, this sword fight's phenomenal, and it looks like they're doing it in the frame for the camera. I was like, how did they pull that off?
Yeah,
and
it was really impressive.
No idea what you had told me about Basil Rathbone. He was a champion fencer or something?
Yeah, when he was young, he was a champion fencer, and that's part of why he got cast in all those swashbuckling movies. I mean, he fought every major star who wielded a sword for a while, and he said that that Tyrone Power was like 10 times the swordsman that Errol Flynn was. And
really?
The fight is very different in that. In those older ones, and in the Douglas Fairbanks, speaking of, who played Robin Hood in the silent era, he also played Zorro in the silent era. Like, the Tyrone Power movie is a remake of The Mark of Zorro from 1920, I think it was. So that's another weird connection. But all those other movies, the fights are very acrobatic. Like they're jumping on giant chairs and like riding them down and swinging on shit, and like Tarzan, and like the sword fighting is very like there's a lot of swinging the sword over the head. You know, like it's very theatrical.
Fling it around, and it's not necessarily a duel.
Right.
It's Robin Hood versus 40 guys.
Yeah, and it's a little goofy.
He's trying to manage how many guys he's got in front of him. Kick this guy, stab that guy, punch this guy.
Yeah.
Run over here. But I get it. That's the story. You know,
and this was a sword fight. This in a room.
It was a duel.
In a fucking room, a confined space, and there's nowhere to go. Nobody's running to gain ground. There's no retreating between two guys who have been like at each other the entire movie. Over a woman too is involved. Two women, but a woman from El Capitan's perspective. And man, he was great in that, wasn't he? Basil.
Yeah, he was
tremendous.
Yeah, he played a good villain, and that sword fight was a shock. I was just how well choreographed it was, and just how fluid. I mean, like editing. You say, there wasn't a lot of just like swinging the sword around. It was all just clank, clank, just like these strokes. I think it was unrealistic as far as a real duel would go, but man, it looked great.
Yeah, sure. I mean, how realistic can you make it? But there's two things I like about it. The editing is really sharp, and it was one of the first examples of editing with action in that they made the cuts based on the beats of the fight, and that means it was so well choreographed too. And they did speed it up. That fight is sped up, but they sped it up just a bit.
Like
just a little bit, just to make it look a little more intense, but not sped up. And man, it works. It works so good, and it's a hell of an ending too, because he fucking just stabs him right in the fucking heart, right on screen.
Yeah. It happens in an instant too. Like Basil Rathbone,
he misses once.
He makes one mistake,
one fuck up.
That's all it takes, and he just like real quick, like right in the heart.
But that's the other thing too. I like. It's kind of subtle, but it shows you how well they told the story with the fight. A sword fight is exhausting, right? In real life, with real people, sword fighting is really physically exhausting. They don't last long. A duel cannot really last that long. And you see the captain's fading by the end. And like his hair's all fucked up, and he starts moving a little slower. But Zorro's much younger and better.
He's the California cockerel.
And he doesn't fade, and that's it. He screws up, and that's it. And that's it. And it's very melodramatic, but he slams up against the wall and pulls the picture down, covering the Z that had been carved in the wall. Fucking
you mean when
epic.
When he dies?
Yeah.
Epic. That was pretty awesome.
That's fucking awesome, dude. And then the big final melee when they take over, but that's another story too. Zorro has, while it's not nearly as old as the Robin Hood stories, it's very much a 20th century story. It's got certain beats and certain elements that have remained consistent through a bunch of adaptations.
Yeah, consistent like police brutality in L.A. and people rioting.
Yeah. Just shit that just keeps going on. Yeah, it's set in what becomes L.A.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, but just in the 1820s. And it was written in 1919. This dude McConnell wrote a bunch of pulp magazine stories with Zorro as a protagonist.
I was going to ask you. Well, like Robin Hood is Robin Hood, is that a complete fiction, or is that based on some historical fact?
No one really knows for sure, but it's basic. The thought, as far as I understand, is that the character of Robin Hood is probably an amalgamation of several real life people who did similar things to what Robin Hood may have done. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like he became just a
folk hero.
Yeah, a folk hero with aspects of real folk heroes from that era. And it's an era where there is no printed stories, there's no books, like you're just talking about word of mouth stories, so things like that happened. and stories blended, but there's some truth to it. Yeah.
So Zorro, is there any truth to that, or is that
Nah, it's just
purely
made up.
fiction?
It's just made up. This dude McConnell
Okay,
just
'cause
made
it's
it up.
Very similar. It's just like Spanish Robin Hood, essentially, and he trades
It is.
a sword for a bow for a sword.
It kind of is. Like he's a lot of things. He's like a cowboy in a way.
And
He's-
Caballero.
Yeah, he's a proto. It's not really a proto western. I mean, it's too early to even be a western, you know. So it sort of is, but he's still a swashbuckler. But he's also kind of a James Bondy character, especially in the writings. You know, he's kind of a master of everything. You know what I mean? Like he's an expert cat burglar. Like he can break into anywhere, which they kind of tried to do in the Antonio Banderas one, but it came.
Yeah.
But that's one thing. He's an expert marksman. He's really
a horseman.
He's an expert horseman. He's incredible with a whip. I think in some of the old stories he had weights in his boots so he could like kick the shit out of people. He had a weighted hat so he could throw it like a frisbee, like Odd Job. And this is before Odd Job was a thing.
No way.
Yeah. Like he was cool as shit. And he also usually carried a pistol and he had a dagger in his boot. Like he was fucking armed up, man. Like Zorro didn't fuck around. And he was also an expert with explosives. Like he was very of that early industrial era, you know, that became the Old West. And, you know, bits and pieces of that were retained in different adaptations. Like there was also a TV show in the 50s, and that was where most of the tropes come from they're not in the Mark of Zorro. Like, and also this is funny too, because you say that he's like Robin Hood, right? But you know who he's also like? Batman. There are a lot of elements from Zorro in Batman, and they've like the creators of Batman have even said that Zorro was a big inspiration. So much so that part of the lore is that the night that the Waynes were killed, that they had been to the theater to see Zorro.
I was gonna ask you that. I remembered that being like a trivia question about Batman. Like, what movie were they seeing? And it was like, I think it was like Zorro, the Gay Blade or something.
No, man, it was the Mark of Zorro in the comic books, and they were referring to the Douglas Fairbanks one. And then in later adaptations, they still put the Mark of Zorro, but then they would be referring to the Tyrone Power one, right? Because they had the same title, but came out later. But even in the earliest,
something else. There was something like a movie where there's a marquee in a famous movie.
I know what you're talking about.
Zorro, the Gay Blade.
I've seen that. I have seen that,
and it's escaping
I'll get to
me.
that in a minute. But no, I know what you're talking about too. It's that and something else on the marquee. Fuck. We'll think of it. We'll think of it. Batman.
Okay, Mark
so
of Zorro is the movie that Batman went to see.
Right, but check it out. Look, Zorro, you have to know the TV show a little bit to get this, because this wasn't in the movie. These are elements that only really work when you got to tell a whole bunch of Zorro stories. Like you turn him into a superhero, kind of, right? He had his lair, his secret lair, is a cave with a secret entrance.
The Z Cave
that he can access from his hacienda. All right.
Oh, jeez.
First, instead of a super fast car, he has a super fast black horse named Tornado or Toronado, depending on which version you're looking at. All right, and the horse is like Lassie smart. In the old show, it could do all kinds of shit. Like it'd go fetch things for Zorro and, you know, chew his ropes and set him free and do all kinds of shit. So there's that, Zorro even had an Alfred. He had
a British butler.
He had a butler. He had like a house band. He was, what was it? He was in the books. He was in the original writing. His name was Bernardo, and in some versions he's a deaf mute. In other versions, he pretends to be a deaf mute as like a ruse because he knows he's Zorro. He helps him be Zorro and shit. And like I think in one of the TV shows, he even would like put the mask on and double as Zorro so that Zorro and Diego could be in the same place at the same time. And Alfred has done that in the comics. And he did that.
Like put on the
bat
suit?
He even did that in the old stupid Adam West show. He had a gray mustache and he would put on the bat suit and people were like, oh, it's Batman. He and Bruce Wayne are in the same room.
Can't be Bruce Wayne.
But yeah, Diego would do that all the time. And then also there's Diego's persona. He has
which in Marcus Zorro, I remember like what a little like namby-pamby he played. Like,
a total fop. And that is the same thing as Bruce Wayne's billionaire playboy persona. Because everyone's like, there's three people there. There's Bruce Wayne, the real Bruce Wayne. There's the fake public persona Bruce Wayne with the women and the cars and everything. And then there's Batman, right? Well, Diego had the exact same thing. You know, he's the serious, like if you even look at Marcus Zorro, he's the serious soldier in the equivalent of West Point in Spain, and an expert swordsman, a very serious young guy who doesn't want to go home and just wants to, he's adventurous, right? But bad shit goes down at home, and he develops this persona to throw people off the idea that he could ever be Zorro. It's the same mechanism. It's the same exact mechanism.
Yeah,
and then
it works exactly the same.
And then, of course, you have a, outlaw persona who wears a mask that covers the top half of his face, wears all black, fucks up people's day in the night. Usually Zorro did shit at night too, and
I'll buy it, man. Zorro is Batman.
Zorro is kind of Batman, and that the black played a function in the old stories because he would only go out at night, and of course you're talking 1820s, wearing black, riding a black horse, pretty hard to see in a pitch black night in California.
Yeah, you'd have to have a bonfire to get a look at him.
Yeah. It's a cool setup, man, and there were a lot of cool stories with it. And Marcus Zorro is my favorite. I love it, but there's a lot of elements that you don't get like that. That I guess you can find the '90s show, and it's not bad. It's just very Disney and very '90s. I've watched the old one though. The old one's pretty cool.
I think the old one is the one I saw. Remember it was it black and white?
Yeah, the old show, yeah.
That's what I remember with him slashing a Z in people.
Okay, yeah. In the pulp novels, he actually carved the Z in people's faces.
Oh,
like in their cheek. Yeah.
Jeez.
I guess they couldn't show that in the old movies.
No, you won't get that past the censors.
That wouldn't have gone over too well. So yeah, it's a shame. They haven't done. I get how the fuck Hollywood hasn't done another Zorro is beyond me. Since the '90s, it's kind of shocking. I know there's a show on right now, but I think it's Spanish language. But it's supposed to be pretty good. But I've never seen it. You know what's funny? I don't know how many people know this. It's very obscure, but. You know who Frank Langella is?
Yeah, I know Frank Langella.
Okay. In 1974, they did a made-for-television remake of Mark of Zorro, the Tyrone Power one. And it's a remake of that exact story and movie. And it's bizarre how similar it is and how different. And it's like watching a high school production of a Broadway show, kind of.
Is it any good?
I mean, it's good in that if you like the original, it's kind of interesting to see what they did with it and how they updated it, but the acting isn't as good. You know who's the Capitan?
Who?
Fucking Ricardo Montalban. Con! A fucking downgrade from Basil, man. But it's like
not the same.
It's actually on YouTube if you ever want to take a quick look at it. If you just look
Frank
for,
Langella. Jeez.
yeah, if you just look for Mark of Zorro 1974, it should come up because it's
So he played Zorro and Dracula.
yeah, he played Zorro and Dracula. He is not Spanish at all. Not at all.
I mean, neither was Tyrone Power.
No, neither was Basil. I love how everyone in the hacienda has sort of, they're trying a Mexican accent, sort of, except Basil. He ain't even fucking bothering. He's just British as
not
shit.
even close.
And the women, too, of course. They don't even bother. They have to be, yeah.
I'd love to go to the court in Spain.
What could be better than the court? It's the only bearable place on the planet. Tyrone Power was so fucking cool in this. Like, you can see the moment when he realizes, when he's come home to California, that everything's fucked. And he's going to start playing these people because he pulls out the lacy handkerchief. Like, you see the change in his eyes.
Himself.
Yeah, and like dabbing at his lips and talking about like different fabrics playing with each other and scents. The musk. Ah, the musk. And the other guys all roll their eyes and you're like, damn, that's fucking... And he even does the same thing when he goes home to visit his father. He waits and kind of takes the temperature of what's going on and where everyone stands. And when he finds out that his dad isn't to the point of like violent rebellion yet, he decides he's going to lie to his father too. You know, the idea being he wouldn't support him being Zorro, so he has to keep it secret to protect him. So he starts acting foppish around his dad and
I've taken up sleight of hand.
yeah, and the way his dad reacts is he's so pissed. It's wonderful. And the priest too, the fucking friar, Jesus God.
Oh, the friar's
nuts. A puppy.
I can't believe the boy I raised.
But then when the reveal scene is pretty hilarious. He's like, my boy, my Diego. I know that movie very, very well. I've seen it. It's very special to me.
Why is it so special to you?
Well, again, I started watching it really young. Like 4 or 5 years old. And I watched it a lot. I think it gave me some really interesting and accurate and solid archetypes for, I guess, different types of men to be, you know? Like, as I got older, I would see these types of people in real life, like Luis, a little man in power.
The alcalde?
Yeah, a little petty man in power. He's not necessarily evil or malicious. He's just like a kid with a magnifying glass. You know, he's just a petty little shit.
Yeah,
you know,
greedy, incompetent.
Greedy, incompetent, spineless when it comes down to it, you know, but rich and willing to pay other people to hurt people, you know. Like, and there's, you know, degrees of that in life. The Capitan, right? This guy who's, you know, he's competent, but he talks about being competent way too much. You know, the dude who plays with his sword all the time. Like, there's versions of that in, like, the guy who is way too into his car and talking about how awesome his car is. You know what I mean? Or the guy who did something once and will never shut the fuck up about it and makes it his entire personality, even though it was 25 fucking years ago and not really that great, you know?
Like Napoleon Dynamite's uncle.
Yeah, like, and you get a bit of his backstory too, the Capitan, and in the movie, he's like, was a big deal in Spain at one point, and he tried to bang some dude's wife and got like exiled to the wilds of California. Because California is like, you know, it's beyond the frontier. It's not even the frontier yet. Like, it's what Mexico was able to inhabit, you know, that wasn't desert when they went north. You know, it's so remote. You can only reach it by sailing all the way around South America. That's a long way from Europe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really hard to do.
Yeah, like getting that would be a pretty brutal exile. So he's a pretty big failure, and he compensates a lot. And you meet that person, and then you meet someone like Diego, who, if you really think about his character, he's so selfless. I know it sounds obvious, but they start him off as a bit of a like you see through the course of that movie, you really see him grow up. From a late adolescent of a young man into an adult, and the decisions he makes, like it's almost instinctive. Like he's just like, well, it's gonna suck. My dad's gonna think I'm a dick, but I have to do this to protect him, and I'm willing to weather that, And it's just he's so clever, and I know that's what he's supposed to be because he's the fox, El Zorro. I don't know. I think it was just good exposure to certain types of dicks and good people that you run into in life.
You're happy you liked Zorro because of your exposure to dicks.
To dicks.
God.
Exposed me to Zorro dicks, to fox
No,
dicks, fox dicks.
No, it's a good point. It gives you a lot of, it gives you a lot of perspective on a lot of different personalities. Some admirable, some not.
And it also teaches you, if you see it young enough, the lesson that just because people are in authority doesn't make them right. And though you can't put it into words at the time, it also teaches you that, what's legal isn't necessarily moral. And, and also that sometimes lying can be the right thing to do if it's for the right reason. And it's
complicated.
It's complicated shit in what seems like a very uncomplicated story, but it actually is a bit more layered than Robin Hood, It's quite a bit more layered than Robin Hood, which makes sense because it's a later story that's run through even by the time that movie that we saw from 1940, it's run through God knows how many writers since 1919, because it was adapted a bunch of times and,
right.
Small, big screen. We talked about 2 shows, but there's been so much. Zorro the Gay Blade. You want to know what that weird fucking movie is?
Yeah, what's up with the Gay Blade?
George Hamilton is up with the Gay Blade. All right, this is a movie that was sort of like a Mel Brooksy movie. I don't think he had anything to do with it, but he might have. It might have. Hold on, let's look. That might have been another goddamn Mel Brooks movie. Hold on. Stand by.
We have our team of analysts working on.
If you ever want to see this, I actually have it. Believe it or not.
Zorro the Gay Blade.
Yeah, I have it. Zorro the Gay Blade. It was from. Oh, it's actually 1981. Holy shit. Yeah, no Mel Brooks, but George Hamilton and Lauren Hutton. It's, see if you can stay with me now. It's sort of what they did with the sequel to the Banderas one. It is intended to be a sort of sequel to Mark of Zorro, right? While also incorporating elements from the television show that had been so popular in the 50s. And the story they decide to tell is this just kind of odd comedy.
Oh my God. I just read.
Yeah, Zorro has to jump back. Hold on. George Hamilton is Zorro. He has to jump back into action as Zorro. He takes a bad fall and breaks his ankle and cannot be Zorro anymore. So his until now unknown twin brother has to come back to town. What's his name? Pedro? I think
Ramon.
It's Ramon has to come back.
De la Vega.
And Ramon is a huge fop. Like the character that Diego plays times 1,000.
So wait a minute. I'm reading this. It's Hamilton was nominated for a Golden Globe Award for playing the dual role
You
of
gotta
Don
be kidding me.
Diego de la Vega and his gay twin brother, Bunny Wigglesworth.
Yeah,
a.k.a. Ramon de la Vega.
When he shows up, he tells him that in court he has changed his name to Bunny Wigglesworth.
Bunny Wigglesworth.
And you know how Diego, of course, plays the fop in public? Well, Ramon decides he just goes out and drag and pretends to be Bunny. That's his persona in public. And he wears a different... The Zorro costume is too boring for him. So he has like 12 Zorro costumes made, and they're all monochromatic in all different bright colors.
He's
Yellow,
wearing, like,
green,
all
gold, maroon. It's pretty wild.
The cover says spelled with Z's, Zexy, Zany, Sensational.
He talks like that too. It's the most racist, over the top accent, and they make fun of it, I guess. So it's not that terrible, but they make fun of the accent and how bad it is, because when Ramon shows up, he's got like like that kind of thing going on, and he has to like slowly start to imitate the regular Diego's accent, but just a little effeminate. It's I give him credit. He did have to come up with a lot of different personas for this one shitty movie.
Jesus.
But it has like all the same characters from the old one that are still alive and still. It's so weird. It's such a weird thing to, especially then.
It's
like,
really funny.
Yeah, let's make a weird comedy sequel to an action movie from 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Like, weird, man. But you should watch a little bit of it because it's pretty fucking funny. There's one scene.
Wigglesworth.
There's one scene when Bunny first shows up. When he first shows up, he's all like covered in, like white makeup with a powdered wig and shit. Like fop makeup, with rosy cheeks and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
like rouge.
Yeah, and George Hamilton is even tanner than George Hamilton usually is in this movie. Like he's almost like red.
George Hamilton looks like he's made out of beef jerky.
So of course he's gonna have to put makeup on to look like like Diego. And there's one scene where half of his face is painted like Diego with a fake tan, and he paints on the Zorro mask and the mustache, and the other half is the white fop makeup. And it's he has a conversation with himself. He turns his head back and forth and has a conversation with himself. It's a weird fucking movie, dude.
Good Lord.
And instead of a sword,
sounds ridiculous.
Instead of a sword, Ramon uses a whip.
Oh, okay.
Because that's his thing, man. That's his thing.
No subtext there.
None. I will say the guy who plays the alcalde is pretty fucking hilarious. He screams everything he does. Everything. But it's funny. There's parts that are funny. It's not worth watching, but it's funny. But yeah, it's just another property that's been done to death. Too many, hey, we've got Men in Tights. It's a very similar thing, I guess. It was weird to make a parody of a movie that came out in 1938 in the 90s. Although it did split its time between that and Prince of Thieves because there was a lot to make fun of there.
Yeah, it's just... And it really helps if you saw the source material when you go to watch those movies.
Yeah. So, okay, flash forward to modern times. We got another Robin Hood on the horizon, for better or worse. Do you think it's time to revisit Zorro on the big screen? If so, what would be the right tone for it?
Well, I wonder if you would benefit from doing a straight remake of like Mark of Zorro, or if maybe you give it the sort of treatment that they're trying with Robin Hood with like an aging Zorro. Which is kind of like, but that's also kind of what they did with the
Hopkins
Banderas
thing.
one.
Yeah. If anyone doesn't remember, that was the Mask of Zorro. I think it came out in 98.
Yeah, and then there's the Legend of Zorro.
Yeah, but the setup in The Mask is that Anthony Hopkins is the original Zorro at the top of the movie when he's younger. And in actuality, he's technically caught and imprisoned in secret for many, many years until he eventually escapes and then has to find his daughter, yada, yada, yada. And Banderas he's basically just like a small-time criminal, right? Who falls in with Diego
Yeah.
and becomes the new Zorro and gets trained up by him. So that's the setup for that one, which I don't like nearly as much as the Mark of Zorro setup. Oh, and that's the other similarity between them, him and Batman. Diego is part of the aristocracy. You know, he's a caballero. Right. He's a rich kid. He's a rich kid. And Bruce Wayne, rich kid. It's just that Diego's parents are still alive. That's all. Yeah. Okay, so back to my question. Like, what? Now that you've seen Mark of Zorro, do you think the time is right, or you think it would just come out wrong? You think they would fuck it up?
I don't know. It's tough. Because I mean, I'm sure that anyone that's tried to remake a movie has thought that it was going to be awesome while they're making it. You know,
yeah.
I wondered. I was watching that Taron Egerton Robin Hood movie, which is terrible.
Which one is that?
The one we talked about earlier with Jamie Foxx.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry. Yeah.
And like the thought that just the way that movie looks and the stuff that's happening, the cost, like all of it just looked horrible. And it made me think to myself, like, at what point do you become aware that the movie you're making is bad?
Yeah.
And when do you realize it? And I wonder, yeah. I mean, I wonder what you could do to Zorro to update it but make it good. And I think, like, I don't know, maybe you lean into the whole, maybe you try to make Zorro even more like Batman than previously. I mean, if Batman's based on Zorro, maybe lean into that connection and make him do more stuff like that, as opposed to just getting into the sword fights. Like, show him being stealthy, show him being, resourceful, or like doing some, like you say, some James Bond stuff. Doing hand-to-hand stuff.
Yeah, so kind of go back to the source material. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Okay, so how about could you make him a little scary? Like,
maybe have him put the slash on the guy's cheek, like they do. Like they did in the original. Like really lean into it.
Because I mean, essentially, he's a terrorist. Like that's the idea. He's a guerrilla fighter, spreading fear through small targeted acts of violence. And there's also another element in the writing that made it into the Fairbanks version, but really didn't show up again after that. Zorro kind of has a little cadre of local dudes who will mask up and help him.
Like merry men?
Kind of like merry men, yeah. And they'll help him escape, they'll help him fight sometimes, and like that could be interesting too. That could be really interesting.
Like the Zorro gang.
I mean, that's been done in the comics too. I know Batman had like a little group of like bat helpers. Bat helpers with bat shark spray.
Bat kids.
Shark repellent. Bat shark repellent.
The bat shark repellent.
Yeah, I think it's tough to make a masked vigilante cool, but it can be done. Like, I'd like to see Zorro more like V for Vendetta kind of. Not modern times. I mean, that kind of attitude, But I love the Diego character so much. I love the ruse,
Well, there's also this too. Like, look at it this way. The Mark of Zorro is set when it sets up. It just establishes that he is the best at all this stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to cross swords with him because he's the best.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants.
He's like the best gunfighter. Yeah, everyone wants to.
Betting on how well he's going to do with the horse jumping and all that. It's just established that he's really good. And then he shows up and he just decides, yeah, I got to do something, and then bang, he's Zorro. He's right in it. Like there's no run up to when he makes the decision.
That's true.
And when he goes out and
there's no prep. Yeah.
He shows up with the black suit on. He's like, here, tack this up. So I wonder if like you look at maybe you could make a movie that shows him becoming Zorro, like a la Batman Begins. where
Yeah.
you see Bruce Wayne become Batman. When he first goes out, he's just wearing like black and he's got a ski mask on. Like that's it.
And it's
he's
it-
not Batman yet.
It's always kind of established that Diego doesn't come up with the idea of Zorro, that it's already kind of a legend that he adopts because the people will recognize it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right. It's already a folktale.
yeah, it's like as if someone was dressing up as Robin Hood, kind of, you know? And that's kind of interesting too. Like, and I think there's like a throwaway line where he says something about how the friar told him about the legend of Zorro when he was a kid, you know, but it's really, really not emphasized at all. And you're right. That would be cooler. That would be a cool way to do it. I wouldn't necessarily want it to like start with a scene of a little boy Diego learning about the legend of Zorro from some old tattered scroll or something.
No, but you could show him as a grown man, like figuring out
Yeah.
after deciding I have to do something, figuring out what it is that he's going to do.
Yeah, maybe everything
and have
clicks, you know?
Have it not be like a fully formed Zorro persona. Like he starts with just like, well, let me go, rattle some cages, see what happens, and then like he keeps like adding stuff to his arsenal until he becomes, the Zorro of legend.
Yeah, like maybe he starts by like kind of doing sabotage. He
Right.
like maybe he blows something up because there's such a thing as dynamite.
Or he like gets a hold of a whip and decides like, yeah, this is pretty useful.
Yeah, or and then maybe he gets caught while doing one of these things and he has to kill the dude because he saw his face and he didn't really want to kill him because he's like a young soldier or something and he feels bad. And then he's like, well, fuck, that solves that. I can't show my face anymore. And then maybe he reads about the legend of Zorro and there's some little throwaway mention about a mask. And he's like, fuck, that's it. That's it. He'll get the people on his side, hide his identity, and sow fear.
Yeah, you know what? He could be doing stuff to try to disrupt whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
And then he gets the idea from the people. They go, maybe it's
Maybe
Zorro.
it's Zorro come back finally. Yeah.
And then
They did that a
what
little
makes
bit.
That's
Yeah.
what makes it click.
They did that a little bit in the Banderas one. They kind of had that attitude, like the people were really hoping Zorro would come back. But that's, of course, because they showed us like he was around like 20 years earlier.
Yeah, they had an original Zorro.
Yeah, like hell, people who were kids remembered him, now that they're adults. So that was a little on the nose, I thought. But it would be cooler if it was shrouded in mystery. Nobody knew what Zorro was supposed to look like, so
Right.
Diego just kind of invents it. That's neat. And that would
could
be
be
cool
cool.
too if he did you notice that they when he pulls the carriage over in Mark of Zorro
Yeah.
and robs him, he's got a cowboy mask on, just a handkerchief across the bottom of his face.
Yeah, like a bandana.
Yeah. And then after that, he like flips the bandana upside down, covers the top of his head, and has eye holes. So
Right.
it's kind of like he was figuring it out maybe a little bit. But I think it would be neat that if he wore different masks and like sometimes he used a whip, sometimes he used only a sword, sometimes he used a gun to make it kind of seem like maybe Zorro wasn't one person.
Right.
Like anything to confuse them, and like I think also it's so there. I think there's enough of the movie audience that has never seen the '98 one or any of the old ones that you might be able to get away with not being super upfront that it's Diego.
Yeah.
And
And you know what you'd have to do? You'd have to avoid having him be a Ninja Turtle.
What do you
And
mean?
What I mean by that is like you pick like we had Ninja Turtle movies growing up, and they had weapons. Like Leonardo had 2 razor.
Oh, I know what
swords.
you're gonna. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
If you watch Ninja Turtles 2 and try to count the number of times they actually use their weapons to hit something, it's precisely fucking once.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous how.
It's when Donatello winds up and tries to bop the big turtle on his shell. and it's just like it bounces off. Other than that, they never use their weapons.
My favorite.
So then you pointed a movie like Logan, where they finally let Wolverine use the sharpest claws on earth to actually cut things, and that movie ruled. It was violent as all hell, but it made sense to like let the guy with the claws fucking cut some people up, and it was awesome. So you have a Zorro movie, you got to let him use the sword. Like, you can't shy away from what you can do with it.
Now that Disney owns the whole world, they could totally release it under a different, production house.
Release it under the Fox label.
Yeah, make it a truly like a rated R, hardcore, like real sword fight heavy Zorro. With really good choreography. Get the fucking guy who did John Wick to do it.
They put out Deadpool. That was violent as hell.
I would go for it if they did a dark, hardcore remake of it, like a real into the gritty bit of the story of it, and don't get bogged down with like a overly saturated love story. Like, that was kind of the exhausting part of the 98
no
one.
dancing.
No dancing. No dancing. We're not going to do like a cute sword fight that's also flirting in the barn. Although that was much appreciated back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would play really cool as a serious action movie. And you know what, man? I you know who should do it? Robert Rodriguez. They should get Robert Rodriguez to do it. That would be fucking hilarious. And Banderas could come back and play like an old man. And he could play Diego's father.
or let him play El Capitan.
Oh, wouldn't that be fucking awesome? He could do that.
The Alcalde.
He could be the Alcalde. He could do that. I bet you he would ham that up, and he could be his. Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun. I don't know who
plays Zorro.
I have no idea. I think you'd have to get somebody young, somebody fresh, someone new.
Someone Irish.
Because Zorro's supposed to be young. He's supposed to be like in college, Yeah, someone really, really Irish, like red hair, like the fucking that Redmayne dude. Like, we'll get Eddie Redmayne.
Eddie Redmayne?
Yeah, get Eddie Redmayne to play fucking Zorro. No, I truly don't know who. I wasn't prepared for this.
You'd need a fresh face.
I think so. I don't know if they'll ever do it. They probably won't, but hey, they're going to run out of shit. They'll get around to it eventually, and it'll probably suck.
When Hollywood realizes they're fresh out of original ideas, they'll remake it.
However, if this Hugh Jackman one is a bit more on the gritty, realistic side and it hits, you might see it. Because, that's what Hollywood does. That's what they do, man. That's what they do. Like, all right, even Robin Hood, even before movies, my man Robin Hood was showing up as like a syndicated side character in other stories.
Right.
Did you ever see any adaptation of Ivanhoe or read it?
No, I actually have Ivanhoe on my library reading list. I haven't read it yet.
Really? I read, I think, a kid's version when I was really young, and I saw the movie. It's Walter Scott, I think, wrote it. Robin Hood's like a side character in that because he was already such a famous character. So, I'm just saying. People have been doing this forever. Forever and ever.
Forever and always.
Forever and always. Yeah, that dancing scene was rough. It's worse in the colorized version.
She swoons. She's like, is there anything so thrilling you've ever... It's so thrilling. He's like, I found it quite fatiguing.
Yeah, that's the best. He's such a dick. Because it's not... He didn't make... That's the cool thing about the persona is it wasn't just that he wasn't effeminate, right? He was just such an asshole. Such an unrepentant asshole.
He's pretty effeminate.
But he was also chasing the wife,
Right.
Like, he was just a dick. He was a society jerk-off who was horribly mean to everybody. And it just made the contrast even that... It's a great bit of acting for such an old movie. For 1940, it was pretty great acting. And I love when he escapes, too, with this fucking bullshit about changing the coin into... from copper to gold.
His magic trick.
Yeah.
He just pulls the guy's arm through the bar.
Have you ever seen this one, Padre? And then they just fucking massacre everyone. The fucking Padre guiding the alcalde through the crowd and just beating motherfuckers over the head, and he keeps saying, "God forgive me, God forgive me, God forgive me." And if you notice at the very end of that sequence, one of the villagers, he sneaks up and he hits the alcalde on the head with a little club.
That's awesome.
And the bookend too, with the sword in the ceiling.
Yeah,
and he repeats.
That's pretty cool.
He repeats the same line that he said ruefully in the beginning when he was just a young whippersnapper being called home. He says like he's gonna, what all Californians do is they get married, raise fat children, and watch their vineyards grow. And he's all bitter about it. And at the end, now that he's in love and he's won back his homeland, he says the same thing with optimism and a smile, and as a way to tell the alcalde's wife to go fuck herself, and that he was playing her the whole time too. Because after he literally executes a coup, overthrows her husband, and she still thinks that he's into her.
Yeah, totally clueless.
Fucking excellent, great stuff, man. I'm thrilled you finally saw that, and I'm thrilled you liked it, and it's really cool to me that a movie starring everyone in that movie is dead for a very long time. It's basically a relic from another time, and people can still enjoy it for the first time. People can. It's kind of magic. It's different than novels. It's different from books. I don't know. The further we get from the beginning of film, the more stark and interesting I think that's going to be. And I think it's cool. And I think it's really a shame if anyone can't manage to get through older movies.
Yeah. Some people have a hard time with it.
I know some people who can't watch things that are in black and white.
I like black and white movies, just in general.
You think it's because we grew up with it?
I don't know. I find them comforting.
I always just assumed that's because I watched a lot of black and white stuff when I was a kid.
You know what it is? You ever put on a record, like vinyl?
Sure.
And you get that hiss.
Yeah.
There's something comforting about it to me, and I get the same thing from black and white movies because this was before you had like stuff happening every second to grab your attention, and before you had film scores that they used to fill every single gap in dialogue. So there's like silences in these movies, and there's just like a weird analog hum in the back that I find comforting, kind of like a vinyl record. I don't know.
Okay.
I like it.
To me, it's a very different experience than watching, I guess, anything made from the 60s on. Watching older movies in black and white is kind of like watching something on stage for me, but different than that because the black and white does something to it. It doesn't make you more detached, but it's just clear that this isn't supposed to be reality. It's a depiction of a story.
Right.
And it's just so upfront because it doesn't look like real life. It's like a version of real life. And just the black and white just looks so beautiful sometimes. Like I got the 4K of Casablanca recently.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. It's so like I'm like, why would you get a black and white movie in ultra high def? Like I didn't get it. Whew, man. If they do the transfer right, if they do the transfer right, it's just gorgeous to look at. And modern movies made in black and white I like too. The version of The Mist that's in black and white is better.
It just changes where your eye goes.
Yeah. Sin City, when that came out.
The color out of a scene, it automatically will like change where your eyes are drawn, and you notice different stuff.
And I guess you have to do more with less because you can't establish a mood as easily, you know?
Yeah, you have to play with the lighting.
Lighting, contrast. I'm trying to think of, movies that came out in black and white as a choice. Schindler's List.
There's a black and white cut of Logan that I saw.
I never saw that. I know there's a black and white cut of Superman versus Batman. So that must be awesome. Sin City, that was wild when that came out.
With the big pops of color.
Yeah, I liked that movie when it came out. I can't really watch it anymore. I think I just watched it too many times.
Sin City was awesome.
The second one was not that good. A Dame to Kill For was not very good.
I never saw that one. I just remember the one line from the first one in the way Clive Owen delivers it when he says he's just like, she doesn't so much decapitate him so much as she turns him into a Pez dispenser.
Yeah, he's got some interesting voiceover lines in that. That was Frank Miller's a twisted fuck, gotta say. Marv. Yeah, that's a far cry from Zorro, and a far cry from Zorro the Gay Blade. Gotta say, I gotta go see Ivanhoe. I've never seen a version of Ivanhoe in a movie version. I gotta do that now. Neat.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna be looking forward to new Zorro someday, and I guess
who do we write a letter to?
Who do we write a letter to? The guy who owns Disney.
Yeah,
he'll listen. He probably listens to this, I imagine. All the players in Hollywood listen to this. Shit, they should be taking notes.
It was his name Bob Iger.
I guess,
Come
yeah.
on, Bob.
Bob.
Get it done.
Get your shit together, Bob. And rethink this Robin Hood thing. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm scared. You think Wolverine will sing in this one?
Oh, God, I hope not.
You think Fat Maximus will show up and sing?
Maximus.